The target of this repair is F550 gold made by Fujifilm. Fix the lower part of the lens shutter that does not close. If the metal part of the lens is double-sided taped, you can easily fix it by removing the tip of the lens, but this model is a dangerous lens, so disassemble everything. What is dangerous? In Fujifilm's F series, if you apply force to the lens tip, the first stage of lens expansion and contraction may come off. Remove the screws on the body. Note that the screws are different on the right side, left side, and bottom of the body. The hard screw feels like turning with a little force. Be careful not to twist the screws. I think the F series is a good model. Up to F600, there is no problem because the body is usually painted. However, the models up to F700/F800/F900/F1000 series have a rubber coating on the body, so aging deterioration is not noticeable. Another problem is that the sides of the F series have a metal-like plating coating. Fingerprints stand out. Since the LCD and the LCD protection board are separate parts, it may be a problem if dust gets in between them. Mold may grow on the surface of the LCD. It can be wiped and cleaned by removing the back body, but another problem with this model is that the flash pops up automatically when the power is turned on. If you hold the camera with both hands, it is difficult to hold it because your left hand is just above the flash. The flash that pops up when the scenery is taken in the daytime is an obstacle. Although it has been improved to an arbitrary pop-up since the F700 series. I wonder if I'm dissatisfied with the design of this model. When the screws on the rear body come off, remove the rear body. If the screws on the front body are also removed, the front will shift when pushing the rear body back, making it difficult to remove. Be careful when removing the rear body. The cable for the wheel is connected to the right-hand side. If you pick it up with your fingers and pull it up, it will come off easily, so don't cut it. If you touch the inside of the protective panel or the surface of the LCD, it will be difficult to wipe off fingerprints, so do not touch it. Since the LCD connector is under the cable, gently unlock the brown lock so as not to cut the cable. It may be better to place it face down so that dust does not get in between the LCD and the protective panel. Remove the screws on the internal metal plate and remove the metal plate. Remove the front body to remove the metal plate. Which body is better, aluminum or resin? Aluminum seems to be more durable, but the paint will come off as it ages. Even if it is deformed, it may be cured. In the case of resin, the paint does not come off, but it breaks. If you do your best, you can weld it, but it is quite difficult to make it smooth. Wonder if the same for both if it put severe scratches. It would be nice if there was a material that would not deform or crack even if dropped. Don't have to prevent bullets like Knight Rider does. It seems that it will be very expensive just to manufacture the outer shell. There is a mistake in the disassembly procedure from here. I'm trying to forcibly remove the internal metal plate with the front body floating. It is very difficult to remove the metal plate as shown in the image. Actually, when you remove the front body, there is a screw near the bottom of the front shutter button, so remove it. Then the upper body will loosen, so if you remove the FPC on the back from the connector, the upper body will come off. Since the flash cable is connected, be careful not to cut it and remove the upper body. If you touch the solder part at the base of the flash cable, you will get an electric shock and it will hurt, so be careful. If you can remove the upper body, you can easily remove the internal metal plate. If you remove it like the movie, it will be around the upper right of the metal plate. The bottom of the mode dial will bend. Since this model was disassembled for the first time, it can't be helped if there is a mistake. It can't be such a tedious task to assemble, so I have to notice it at this point. This worker can't help because he lacks intelligence. Even with the video method, if you work carefully, it will come off. The metal plate bends a little, but if you are a talented person, please do not imitate this scene but follow the regular procedure. When the metal plate comes off, remove the cable growing from the lens and remove the lens. The camera's shake cable in the middle is a connector without a lock, so be careful when disconnecting it. If you try to remove it at this stage, it will probably disconnect, so I haven't removed it yet. After disconnecting the upper CMOs and the lower focus cable, gently press the lens from the front side of the body to remove the lens. The camera's shake cable is still connected, so be careful not to cut it. As for the lens, there is a resin part on the upper left that opens and closes the flash, so pull out the lens slowly so as not to break it. If you remove the upper body, you can easily work by pulling out the metal rod that supports the part. In the assembly scene, it is shown, but here it is not shown because it is the wrong procedure. The correct work procedure is important. There is a moving part with a protrusion around the thumb of the right hand. There is a cable around the lens. Although it is protected by tape, work slowly, being careful not to catch it on a board and cut it. The area around the lens is generally made like this for the F series, so work slowly without rushing. When the lens comes up, pick the connected camera shake cable from above and below and slowly pull it out. Yay! I did it! This parts related to the top and bottom of the flash. This spring is on the upper side of the connecting part. As shown in the assembly scene, if you make a mistake, the flash will malfunction. Lens rescue completed. Disassemble the extracted lens. Remove the screws on the back. After removing the 3 screws, remove the tape around it. There is a cable under the tape, so be careful not to break it. Be careful of the Incredible Hulk and Superman. The black tape is also peeled off, but at this time it is easy to cut the cable, so be careful and slowly peel it off. Be especially careful not to cut the cable in the middle as it will float. Don't be impatient. Slowly. Be especially careful because this part is doubled and does not come off easily. Look closely at where the tape comes off. After peeling off the tape, remove the silver bottom. Unlock the connector and disconnect the focus cable that grows from inside the lens. There is a claw on the part with the connector on the front. Unscrew the main motor. Remove the stopper-like resin around the lens to make it easier for the main motor to come off. The part where the key claw is applied is fragile, so be careful of the force. When all the key claws are removed, move the main motor. If you move the main motor, there will be a spring underneath, so be careful not to blow the spring when removing it. Remove the remaining screws. Remove the silver metal plate. Be careful as the movable lens is a little stuck. It's like raising it to the upper left. Pull out the focus cable. Remove the lens from the base while pressing lightly from below. When it comes out, pull out the focus unit this time. When removing it, turn the lens to align the groove of the lens so that it is completely retracted. The focus unit is double. There is also a spring in between. When pulling out, you have to pull out both at the same time. Make a mark so that you know which direction to combine when reassembling each part. Anything is fine as long as you know. Store the movable lens in the storage position. After that, remove the barrel while aligning the claws inside the lens. Originally, the third step came off at this position, but the inside of the first step was cracked and the groove and protrusion did not fit and did not come off. If there is a problem with the first stage of the lens and the internal groove and protrusion do not match, I removed it because I should remove the first stage. The first stage of this lens will come off if you pull it carefully so that the part where the protrusion fits in the groove does not crack. It's an emergency, so it's not a good idea, but by removing the first stage, the third stage also came off smoothly like the video. After removing the outer barrel of the third stage, pull out the 3 pins to remove the inner barrel. Turn the lens to align the groove and protrusion and remove it. For the second stage of the lens, pry it with a screwdriver to remove the key claw. If you make a mistake in adjusting the force, the second stage will crack, so be careful. It is a little difficult because it is a thinner material than F700 series and later. Since one place has come off, if I try to remove the second place, the key claw in the first place will return to its original position. It came off. It is important to mark it so that you can see the direction when assembling. Since this model originally has no mark, it is difficult to know the direction. If the direction is wrong, it will not be assembled or malfunction. Remove the metal tube at the tip of the lens to repair the lens shutter. I think it is attached with double-sided tape and drip ethanol. If it is attached with double-sided tape, it will come off with ethanol, but this model seems to be different. It does not move even if the resin part inside is pulled. The lens shutter cannot be repaired unless it is removed. If there is no double-sided tape, it is supposed to be glued or fixed with a key claw. The resin part is surprisingly thin and easily cracked, so I'm afraid to put up my strength. The width of the resin that can be grasped is also narrow. Examine various places to get an idea of where the glue is used. It seems that the manufacturer expects to replace each unit, so it seems that they are not considering removing this part. As a result of pulling it with my finger little by little for about an hour without breaking it, it came off. Silicone adhesive was used in 2 places inside the metal cylinder. Remove the lens shutter part attached to the tip of the removed resin part. I will remove the key claws around it. Since the gap is narrow, pry with a thin object such as a cutter. Remove the spring of the lens shutter unit. It may be safe to hold the other side with your fingers so that it does not fly. This model is easy because it has 2 tension springs. After removing the spring, remove the inner metal plate. Since the part to be removed is decided, turn the metal plate to align the protrusions and remove it. The lens shutter is also wrapped in a metal cover, so remove the surrounding key cloths. When removing the case, there is a spring inside, so be careful not to fly it when removing the case. It is a spring for opening and closing the shutter, so be sure to check how it is installed. I think you can think of how to return the spring considering the mechanism. Check the order of the shutter blades. It is a protrusion for cooperation with other wings. Are the wings bent? Are the protrusions broken? Is the spring deformed? Check in detail. Always be careful not to fly the spring. If there are no strange parts, I think that the engagement is just wrong due to the impact of the camera dropping, so you can reassemble it to the normal state. This model is easy because it is not painted, but if the paint or clear is peeled off, it will be repainted, which is troublesome. When reassembling the lens shutter for any model, it is quite troublesome because the wings are distorted and the lens shutter is reassembled with the force of the spring applied. In the past, there was one with one blade on each side, but as the aperture of the lens increases, it becomes 2. And nowadays there are more than 3. Depending on the model, it may be a double door instead of a shutter, or it may be just a lid like a single lens reflex camera. The more moving parts there are, the higher the probability of failure, so a simple mechanism is fine. It would be easier if only this unit was sold at a low price. After returning the shutter to the case, assemble the silver metal plate by aligning the protrusions and grooves. Please be careful about the direction of the metal plate. There is a direction. After fitting the metal plate, return the two surrounding tension springs to their original positions. If you apply strange force to the lens barrier or the silver metal plate, the overlap of the barriers may become strange. In that case, it is necessary to reassemble the lens barrier, so be careful. Be careful not to fly the spring. The material is thin and deforms when you apply force, and it does not work perfectly in this state, but I think that it is okay if it looks like a movie. When the lens barrier unit is assembled, return it to the resin on the first stage of the lens. Be careful as there is a direction. It's okay if you check where the key claws get caught. Be careful not to put pressure on strange parts when fitting the key claws. In this state, opening and closing can be seen. It doesn't open and close well when force is applied from the front and back, so it's okay if it closes completely like in the video. Return the inner cylinder to the first lens. Be careful not to fly the 3 push springs and return them. In the first stage where the lens barrier is returned, the metal cylinder is returned while paying attention to the direction of return. Pay attention to the direction of the protrusions on the metal cylinder. Align the groove around the return spring with the groove of the cylinder with the metal cylinder, and insert the spring into the protrusion near it. Please note that there is a vertical orientation. The first stage of Fujifilm's F-series is all this mechanism. It is unknown what the reason is. If this does not move up and down firmly, it will not be in focus or the lens will not expand or contract, so let's check that it works normally. It is normal to press lightly with your finger and release it to return smoothly. Put the lens back in the second cylinder, but at that time put a spring inside. Combine the first and second tiers. Grooves and key claws. Pay attention to the direction. Insert the protrusion of the first stage into the groove of the cylinder of the second stage while paying attention to the force. When the first and second stages are combined, insert the second stage outer cylinder. This time, start from the fitted state. Fit the second step into the third step. Align the groove with the protrusion. Pay attention to the direction. In the third stage, the motor gear comes to the lower left, so make sure that the round notch comes to the lower left. After fitting, return the 3 pins. Be careful not to lose the pin. For those who are dexterous, use pliers. For those who are not good with fingers, do as you like. Isn't such a troublesome design unpopular with the people who manufacture it at the factory? As far as I know, the model that requires pliers to disassemble is the Fujifilm F series. Usually, if you drop the camera and drop it from the lens, the first stage will come off or this part will crack, so I think that it is not a very good mechanism. After fitting the pins, extend the lens and fit the third stage outer cylinder. You can know the direction by thinking about where the gear will come. When the outer cylinder fits, shrink the lens. Fit the lens into the base. You can know the fitting direction if you consider the position of the gear. Fit the focus unit. The direction of the cable is the direction of the connector. If it is difficult to pinch the cable head of the focus unit, it may be a little easier to disconnect the connector cable. Fujifilm lenses are a bit unique compared to other manufacturers. In the past, we may have been developing honeycomb CCDs or sticking to our own technology. Nowadays, in Japan, it's more like a cosmetics, pharmaceutical, or chemical manufacturer than a camera. Put back the metal plate with the movable lens. Fit the movable lens while moving it to the retracted position. Be careful not to scratch the lens. This movable lens was sometimes broken when the camera was dropped. If the lens itself is damaged, it cannot be repaired, which is a problem. Fingerprints on the silver parts are noticeable and unpleasant. I wonder if I should wear thin rubber gloves. Troublesome. Fit the spring before fitting the motor. Be careful not to fly. When fitting the motor, it is safer to fit it with the lens completely shrunk. Camera screws are usually easy to turn with just one screwdriver. PS4 uses 3 to 4 types of screwdrivers. Sometimes there are screws of different sizes, but with a single lens reflex camera, there are screws that are so tight that you may wonder, is this screw glued? Be careful not to break the screw by using a screwdriver with a thick handle or using oil. I really think the Phillips screw is a big invention. Slotted screws are very difficult to use. It seems that the Japanese manufacturing industry several decades ago was not productive because it was almost 100% slotted. Honda Motor Co., Limited was the first in Japan to introduce a Phillips screw on a large scale. It seems that it could not be mass-produced/used due to problems with patents and manufacturing technology. Nowadays, even in the declining Japanese manufacturing industry, high-quality screws are still a Japanese specialty. In terms of technological improvement, China is currently making a rage, but will China be declining like the Japanese manufacturing industry? It seems that it will continue to grow unless labor costs rise. The rest is quality, reliability, and achievements. There is also a story that the factory has moved too much to Asia and Southeast Asia. Now, even the technology that is behind will eventually catch up and overtake. The same person thinks. Return the lens cable and the ring that holds the motor back. If the metal inside comes off the resin, it is okay to fit the metal side claws and the resin side dents together. Assembly of the lens unit is completed. I thought it was done, but I forgot one point. If you do not protect the cables around the lens with tape, the wires will break. Started tape application work. You can use the tape that was originally attached if it can be used, but the used tape may come off immediately. The tape used may be electrician tape, but we use insulating polyester tape manufactured by Teraoka Sakusho in Japan. Thickness 0.025 mm. Any tape that can be protected may be 3M, Nitto Denko, or Sumitomo Electric. If possible, it is better not to leave glue. Like Captain. It's better not to be thick. The tape gets in the way when incorporating the lens into the body. Attach the camera shake unit cable in the middle so that it is at 90 degrees to the base. As you can see from the disassembly scene, if the cable is too long or too short, it will cause problems when connecting to the connector. Please note that this is a place where unnecessary force is applied even in a new state. It has a strange structure from the beginning, although I don't know if it is for drop detection or it makes it easy to break so that it will break down in a few years. If you do not protect the focus cable connector with tape as well as the cable, the lock part may be damaged when you return the lens. By the way, a connector made by Panasonic. This time the lens assembly is complete. Incorporate the lens into the body. A metal rod with a spring and resin parts that are stuck with tweezers opens and closes the flash according to the expansion and contraction of the lens. The protrusions on this resin part must fit into the groove on the top of the lens exactly. As I said in the disassembly scene, the assembly procedure for this scene is incorrect. To be precise, the correct answer is to remove the silver upper body, pull out the pin here, remove the spring and resin parts, place it, install the lens, and then reassemble it. In the video, the nails are fitted into the groove with a spirit. It's ridiculous. When assembling the lens, first insert the camera shake cable in the middle into the connector. If you do not insert it exactly into the hole of the connector when inserting it, the connector will crack or the cable will break when it is deformed, so apply force carefully and accurately. After inserting the camera shake cable, insert the lens unit into the main body. I am struggling to match the claws and grooves. It's an idiot. It can be assembled by this method, but it is a detour. When inserting the lens into the main body, be careful not to catch the cable around the lens and break it. The parts for flash interlocking are the resin parts on the front and the springs on the back. If you make a mistake in the position of the spring, the flash will not come out completely, so you may or may not be able to use the flash function. This is because the flash part of the upper body has a physical switch, and the stroke of that switch does not move completely. It's a small spring, but it's important. Insert the other side of this rod into the loop at the top of the lens. Once the lens is in place, connect the CMOS cable and focus cable. Be careful not to break the wire dot and also lock the connector firmly. For focus cables, it may be difficult to insert the cable into the narrow connector, but if you have a complaint, please tell Fujifilm. The cable must be firmly inserted so that it is parallel to the board. Reassemble the internal metal plate. Since the upper body has not been removed, it is unlikely that it can be reassembled. Useless man was also noticed at this point. Remove the upper body. Remove the screws on the front and top. The metal plate can be easily reassembled by removing the upper body. Align the right side and just fit the left key claw. The correct procedure is easy. It can't be helped because it's the first model to be disassembled and it has a troublesome personality. It's a difficult place because there are some models that need to remove the upper body and some that don't. When removing the upper body, be careful of the cable connected to the flash capacitor. If you touch the terminal, you will get an electric shock and it will hurt very much. I'm groping in my crotch. I'm not doing anything suspicious. The lid of the hole used to connect the cable to the battery compartment has fallen, so I'm looking for it. Older models had similar holes for other manufacturers to connect AC cables. Currently, I feel that there are many methods that supply power from the micro USB terminal. It may change to a model that switches between charging and power supply depending on the presence or absence of a battery, or power supply from micro USB. Other than Sony, it may be charged in many cases. Sony cameras are uselessly expensive, so it would be nice to be able to transfer the shooting function and shot images to Wi-Fi in real time while displaying them on a USB power supply, HDMI to LCD, etc., but only some mirrorless cameras have that function. It seems that Chinese companies will install it immediately. However, I'm lucky if it works properly. I think it's natural that the market share will decrease because digital cameras can't do what smartphones can do. There are also issues such as the cost of testing whether the new function works properly and the cost of parts. Who will take responsibility in-house if new features are installed and do not sell? There is also the problem. It is a virtue of a large Japanese company that a dangerous bridge cannot be crossed even after safety confirmation, so it can't be helped. Since it is a large company, there seems to be an idea that even if another company imitates a good selling product and manufactures it later, it will be manageable. Opportunities only come in negative situations, said some great man. If there is no trouble, Superman will not have the opportunity to exert his power, so no one will recognize the existence of Superman and he will end his life as a mere newspaper reporter. Well, it can't be helped. I wonder if camera manufacturers want to continue or shrink safely because the sales of other businesses are already much higher than the sales of camera manufacturing. It's been a long time since there are no parts where digital cameras can beat smartphones other than telephoto, macro, dark places, and low noise. It's a downfall industry. About 30 years ago, the image of Japanese tourists that Americans had was that they were always smiling, with glasses in a camera from their neck. Nowadays, cameras have become smartphones, glasses have become contact lenses, and what remains is fake smile. The times are continuing to flow. Reassemble the LCD. The cable has a crease and it is difficult to insert it into the connector, but insert it carefully so as not to break it and lock it. This model has a space between the LCD and the LCD protective plate, so remove dust carefully. If you don't care about dust, you can skip this work. It's a matter of appearance. Insert the wheel controller cable into the rear body. Align the cable exactly with the hole in the connector and force it in parallel with the board. Forcibly inserting it will easily damage the connector or cable. If the connector is damaged, buy a connector with the same number of pins at a 0.5 mm pitch, or solder the cable directly to the board one line at a time. This connector is probably made by Malux. If the cable is damaged, search for a 0.5 mm pitch FFC cable. When fitting the rear body, make sure that the metal plate protrusion on the lower left and the tape of the capacitor are on the inside when viewed from behind. The bottom is a short screw. The long screw on the right. The left is a medium screw. I wonder if the manufacturer is willing to repair it as long as the body is screwed. Recently, there are many electric appliances that are not considered for disassembly because they are clawed, glued, and ultrasonically bonded without using screws. Small electric appliances such as smartphones are either glued or double-sided taped. They will repair it for the time being. Usually, you will be charged a huge repair cost. Amount of money that you should buy a new one. Why did Fujifilm have such a shiny body? A mystery. It's not so good because fingerprints are easily attached. I wonder if the photos that are eye-catching when displayed at the store or that appear in the catalog are luxurious. I think there is a dispute between designers. salespeople and engineers. I wonder if this model was won by sales and designers. Until about 10 years ago, I think that digital cameras were mostly silver. I heard that the manufacturer tried to differentiate it from the existing black analog cameras. At that time, silver seemed to be advanced. The aliens in the movie also wore silver clothes. Well, since the power was turned on, it seems that it was not damaged during work. There seems to be no problem with the operation of the rear wheel. There seems to be no problem with the lens. There is no problem with the operation of the lens barrier. Repair completed.